potential. But
bro, what do
you could be fat with all the potential, and you're not even fat.
Wait, Jazz says I'm not even fat? No, actually, I am chubby. But actually,
you're not that fat.
But I've been losing weight, though.
But you're not like a BON.
What the that? What the hell is that?
A big old nigga.
Oh.
Y'all know what a BON is? Come on now. Y'all from the suburbs?
I'm from the hood.
Y'all from the suburbs?
No, I'm from the hood.
Stop playing. You don't know what a BON is?
No.
Because I mean,
Jazz, I've lost some weight.
You not like no.
Wait, by the way, Jazz has lost weight too, but she's lost more than I have. You know?
I mean, I really wasn't even that fucking big. I probably lost like 10 pounds total if I were to count over the past.
But Jess, haven't I lost weight since last year?
Yeah, honestly, you really have.
You know,
facts.
You know, what I'm saying?
Before you was.
But shout out.
You're not even no BON no more. Before you was.
I was a big.
You're not even no BON right now. You good. You all right.
Oh.
And that bill, I do.
Oh.
Don't get all emotional and shit. We're not here for that. We're not here for that tonight.
Stoic One says she's awful. Yes, when she's drinking, she can get a little ratchet. Wait, Jazz, stand up for the camera.
No, because now you want me to be ratchet. Don't listen to what the fuck.
No, stand up. Show them that you lost the weight.
I'm awful because I'm honest.
Show them that you lost the weight. Because last time they saw you on camera, you were fat as fuck. So show.
I'm gonna walk up to the store with you. What's really up? And if it's not that, then lose my number.
Have you ever been played like that?
Lose my motherfucking number. Not like that. Hell no. Hell no.
So you've never ever let a dude like use you up for cash?
Never. Fuck. Never.
Do you buy niggas stuff?
Never. The only person that ever would technically like owe me. You think you funny?
How they not wasting their money?
Because we're still here.
Huh?
Because we're still here. And we're still entertaining your fucking energy and time. I could be doing something else right now.
Entertaining like
whoa, Jazz.
You
first time ever, live. First time with the female.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
What is this nigga talking about, bro? Run it again.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
Look at her face, y'all.
Do I need help?
Like here's the reality. Like, okay, Jess, let me ask you this, because I'm awake now. The coffee's kicking in.
It's fine. I'm literally.
The coffee, good. We all lit.
As honest as we're gonna be.
We all lit. So here's the thing. If a dude flies you out, you're not gonna say no.
What? Who's not gonna say no?
You.
Why wouldn't I say no?
Because you get a free trip, like you said.
And just because I get a free trip doesn't mean I want to fuck you. That's where these niggas fuck up at.
Exactly.
That's where these niggas fuck up at. I've been on free trips. And
so wait. You're just flying out of the goodness of your heart because you really...
No, because at the end of the day, if a nigga want to fly me out and I choose to do it if I have time for it, that's fine. Exactly.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
About cryptocurrency, because it is about to go up again. Check out the Trendsetter cryptocurrency course. There, I teach you how to look at certain coins, how to protect your coins, wallets, so that way you don't get hacked or wrecked, how to do the tokenomics on a coin, meaning you're able to research a coin properly, the potential of a coin, as well as vet the team properly, along with the rise of meme coins. I've got a video on that. And so, yeah, check it out. Trendsetter cryptocurrency course. So, I mean, what do you think?
We'll have to see what people want, what the utility is, and who the backers are. Is what it comes down to.
Okay, so let's
any coin can just randomly tank. You know?
Facts.
Like, you know what happened with Titan? Like, everyone took their money out of it. It went to zero, and a lot of people actually lost money.
Yeah, that it's called a rug pull. That happens a lot. That's why you gotta vet the team if you can. Even though Shiba's team is a little unknown, I'm not going to lie.
People are speculating like it's Elon Musk. So
on Shiba Inu?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he would pump Shiba up more then. But
he's been making subliminal messages towards it.
Yeah.
I don't know though. Like, it's just all speculation.
It is. Okay, so what coin What coin are you bullish on? Because I know you were telling me I should research a coin. Was it like?
I really like VeChain. ADA.
What do you like about VeChain?
Good technology.
Yeah.
Good utility.
And they already have partnerships with Cooney and Nagel, the biggest freight forwarder in the world.
Okay.
Also, they in Cyprus, I believe, they integrated their blockchain into their app, so that way they could track who's had the vaccine or not. ADA, okay, VeChain, ADA. Who else? By the way, not financial advice. He's just telling y'all.
Yeah, this is my opinion. These are coins that I like. So,
what else? Any other coins? Or?
Those are in Shiba. Like,
have you looked into AMP yet?
Yeah, I looked into AMP. I think that's a slow grower.
Slow grower.
Long term.
So a long term hold.
Yeah. I'm giving names of coins that I'm bullish on for this year. That's going to give the highest percentage.
VeChain
ROI.
is so slept on. VeChain should be higher because
as VeChain gets a good catalyst, it's going to fly.
The thing with VeChain is it has so many partnerships already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Well. That,
Did you get that?
Yeah. I got that on video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Solo TV 84. We got a special guest here today. Ike, did you enjoy that new Patreon promo?
That was very good. That was very good, sir. That was a nice end, perfectly right there. It was good stuff, Hitchcock.
Well, you know what? I got to credit you because Ike was the one when we had and I don't think Ike minds me sharing this. We had a conversation before I even started the crypto course, and Ike was like, well, you know, it'd be nice for you to maybe record behind the scenes how that comes into place, right? And I was like, yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I was doing it, and then I got really, really agitated with the editing because I had to do a lot of it. And then it kind of fell by the wayside. But then recently I've picked it up again, kind of just to show the journey in real time. And then, you know, of course, the Patreon always gets the good stuff first. Because cheap niggas don't, you know what I'm saying? Facts. Anyway, let the viewers know who you are. They should know you by now, but just in case, I mean, you're like, you know, the Gandalf of the Manosphere, I guess.
The Gandalf coming at you live and direct. Lot of mercy. Well, it is. My name is Ike Ogiamian. I have a channel that talks about being better and doing better. That's the main focus. There's a main focus on doing, and everything is presented in a very simple, measurable, actionable, intuitive way. No BS, right? And what are my interests? Everything from philosophy to engineering and so on and so forth. Music is a big part of my life as well. But on my channel, on Prometheus, two channels I have. One is Prometheus Engineering, and the other one is just by my name. You can find in there information that is given, as I said, simple, measurable, actionable, intuitive, about being better and doing better. That's it.
Okay, and you know, it's always good to have Ike on, that he's willing to come from Mount Olympus to us common folk. So we appreciate that. So today
you ain't shit solo. Anyways, go ahead.
I wanted to speak on abundance mindset, right? To some people, the term always seems a bit vague or abstract. But before we even get into the meat and potatoes of this, because this is a heavy topic that I know you can go into multiple different facets or tangents on. What is your definition of abundance mindset? How do you define it in your own terms?
Okay, good. And I think that before I go there, maybe I should give another dimension of myself, right? So I'm an engineer by training, and I do engineering and technical sales, right? So I think that kind of background is important to understand my point of view, the place that I'm coming from, when one starts to talk about things such as the growth mindset or all these other kinds of things. Because the immediate question is, well, what gives you the authority, and what are you talking about, and where are you coming from? Get the idea. So now, having said that, okay, it is kind of my way to basically say, well, what is the opposite of the growth mindset, right? That'll be the fixed mindset. Sometimes a good way of kind of defining things is by looking at the opposition. So what is the fixed mindset? The fixed mindset is a mindset that looks at the world as immovable, generally speaking, right? Like there's nothing you can do about it solo. You might as well just take it. The story has already been written. You are a black man in Minnesota, and these are the stats, right? You need to just follow the average stats and try to stay above average. Don't become a statistic, if you will, that kind of a thing. The world is fixed. There's not action to be taken. There's not moves to be made, deals to be made. The other mindset, right, the growth mindset, has to do, therefore, shout out to you. Good one. I poured mine in my little chalice.
Us common folk are just happy to get one of these. You know what I'm saying?
So the idea is, okay, for the growth mindset, you're really looking at the world as a forum for action. Okay, so you're looking at the world as a video game where you can jump over things, you can shoot little fireballs. There's maybe it's Mario, right? There's that star. Sometimes you could get into star. Maybe star is like good luck. You get that good week where you're firing at all cylinders and you're going, and you're able to knock over all these obstacles fairly quickly. We know that this happens in life, at least in certain regards, in certain aspects of our life. The growth mindset is to look at all of life as that way, as a forum for action, a place where you can actually move the obstacles around. You can jump over them, you can dodge them, you can swim under them, you can negotiate with them, you can deal with them, you can bribe them, you can do something, in other words. It's not a world that is fixed. Hence, there is a focus on action. So the growth mindset really comes down to the world is a place where I can act and move things around. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay, Ike. And you know, Ike, you asked a very interesting question before we started this stream. You asked me, well, what prompted me to do this, right? And I've seen an increased rise in the manosphere in general, and also certain other men's spaces, I guess, regarding this whole nihilistic mindset that everything is at a fixed point, so to speak, that nothing can be done, and that life is meaningless if you are not born into good genetics, or you're not rich, or you don't, you're not living a rock star lifestyle. And when I look at this, I guess you can also kind of see this on social media, right? Where everybody's only showing their best self. But what they're not going to see is me yelling at Jazz yesterday to get her drunk ass off the floor. So speaking about that, when Ike, let's get into that. And for those who don't know what the word nihilist means, what is the definition of? I know what it means, but I want you to break it down, Ike, because you can expound on it far more intelligently than I could. But what is that? Wait,
relevant? Yeah, go ahead.
What is your definition of a nihilist? And I think you can kind of see where I'm going now with the topic. But what is your definition of a nihilist? And well, let's start there, because I don't want to give you multiple questions.
So there is that there is that definition, but I see where you were going there with the fixed mindset, which again looks at the world as it's more of a deterministic world, right? The world may be deterministic all the way down. That is not really the point. The point is, can I at least still make a move, right? So the fixed mindset that says, as you mentioned, if you're not born into a certain particular thing, if you don't have the 6 6s, if you don't have, was it LMS, looks, money, status, those kinds of things, right? That is what that is about. So a nihilist, because that goes into a certain kind of nihilism. Nihilism is a certain kind of decision in the face of meaninglessness, right? In other words, you see that there's no meaning, there is no reason to do A or B. Things are a fait accompli. It's already done. It's already written. So that fixed mindset is much akin to nihilism of a certain sense. Now, there are many ways to be a nihilist, right? You can be like, everything is meaningless, so I'm going to rock out with my cock out, right? Or everything is meaningless, so I'm going to go sit in the corner and not do anything. Everything is meaningless, so I'm going to take over a country. You get what I'm saying, right? it does not necessarily prescribe a set of actions that you're going to take. It just says everything's meaningless, right? So, but within this, though, so I've defined the nihilist, and I've also mentioned that you were coming from a place of people saying that things are fixed, right? And the story is already written, and if you don't have, you cannot make a move. I think that competing against yourself from the past is the key there, and then I'll kind of let you react to whatever. I don't want to say too much, but I think I answered both half of your question. But competing against yourself from the past rather than looking at the external world, generally speaking, is key. Because if you notice, rather than say, hey, I'm a douchebag, I didn't go to my run or for my run yesterday. Hey, I'm a piece of whatever, I didn't complete my whatever task I need to do, or better, or whatever it may be, right? Because no, it's not like these people are offing themselves, right? And not to take the topic of suicide.
Some are.
Yeah,
right?
but not to take the topic of suicide lightly.
Right.
But we're not talking about that group. Let's put that aside. Let's talk about the people out there with a fixed mindset / nihilist of a certain sort, displaying certain kinds of behaviors. Let's ask them, okay, you're here. Huh, I see you're even on some kind of a diet. Oh, you don't do silly things, generally speaking. You're actually cautious a little bit, huh? Oh, you're saving for your retirement. Okay. So I'm like, okay, while you're doing all this, why don't you just, rather than look to the external world and talk about how things are just so against your ability to make change, how about you look at your internal world? And we all know that it's full of places, leaking pipes, unkept promises to ourselves, projects that we haven't started, things we should have learned last year that we haven't gotten around to learning, action items we should have implemented weeks ago. It's like, that's what you should be looking at when it comes to competition and improvement, not competing against some theoretical outside. For example, if something external, right? Some external theoretical thing, some group, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, but it's like if the Japanese were constantly comparing themselves against the Kenyans and a particular tribe of Kenyans from a particular hill somewhere that always win the long distance races, the Japanese are going to be very unhappy for a long time, right? They're not going to be beating these guys. The marathon game is sewn up, in other words. So should the Japanese now be like, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't have the marathon game is sewn up. The 666 game is sewn up. Therefore, I'm not going to do anything anymore. That's kind of what's going on there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make sense. Like, Japan can do other things. You can make cars or make computers or something. Stop looking at the but I can't win a marathon. It's like, well, the marathon lane is not your lane.
One thing that I appreciate about you is going back to our first conversation, which was probably about a year ago at this time, right? Maybe a little,
yeah,
right, yeah. I think this is our 1 year anniversary, right? One of the things about self-improvement, there's an old cliche that and just to keep it very simple, that states, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? And the reason when I look at this abundance mindset, you see a lot of, and I'm not taking shots at anybody, by the way, but you see a lot of dating coaches talk about it, right? And they put it in terms, obviously, because they're dating coaches, they put it in terms of women, where it's like, okay, well, even if you don't have any women, just in your mind, be abundant that you do have women. So I guess let's talk about the fundamentals first about attaining an abundance mindset, because one of the things that I've noticed, I've been hanging around more successful people, okay, and you start to notice patterns, right, Ike, with certain people that are in a what I like to call operate in a higher frequency or a higher vibration, right? And some of these patterns are, these people are ambitious, and they have a mindset that they totally believe in themselves. Even at times, if they may not believe in themselves, you will never know it because they're not going to show that publicly, right? So I guess how does one develop a mindset if they come from a background where maybe they were raised in poverty, maybe they just didn't have things go their way? How does one develop that mindset to have an abundant mindset if you don't presently have said abundance? Does that make sense?
Let's the thing is, because that is a big question, right? And
That's what she
rather
said.
than indeed, rather than go with some list of here's some things you can do, right? Let's try to do the what I think is a prerequisite, which is to understand the mechanics. In other words, try to communicate and convey the mechanics of the mindset that you're talking about and why it works. You started out with an example of, like, even if you don't, you're talking about pickup artists or, dating coaches or whatever you may call them, and how they may say, even if you don't have, act like you have, that kind of a thing, right? So if one were to try to talk about the mechanics of that mindset, then it will cause the person, whomever receives it, whatever percentage of people listening to this that absorb it, right, and say, I understand it now. That is going to raise a certain, in other words, we're trying to push them towards a certain critical mass. There maybe is a mental block, a logical block, and also there's emotional blocks, right? So, but if we give them these mechanisms in a simple way by which something works, it might push the mental aspect. You're like, oh, now I clearly see it, right? It's not magic anymore. How did they do it? How are they doing these things that they're doing? Well, it is fairly simple again, in the sense that you simply have to have mastery in order to get things from the world. And mastery, by the way, is not just a question of skill. It is a question of not having the thing having control over your ego so much, right? So when you approach the lady, okay, the idea of having an abundance mindset is, and the reason why you should think as though there were 50 other ladies right behind her, is because when you think and when you're in this state of mind that suggests that, hey, there's just 50 other ladies behind you, doesn't matter what I say to you, or it doesn't matter what you say, right? Then the lady is not going to be in a position to attack your ego. And in that state is the state whereby people tend to give you things, whether it be a sale, or whether it be her number or IG, whatever it may be, or whatever you're trying to get. In that state, okay, let's stop and let's look at the opposite state, right? Because I mentioned earlier, opposition is a good way to kind of clarify certain things. What's the opposite state? The opposite state is you're nervous. There's only one. You're in a scarcity mindset, right? You're desperate. Okay. What does that look like? Are you laughing at that person's joke? The jokes of the comedian that's on stage and is nervous and shaking? Are you buying their products? Are you giving them your number? Right? So this is the mechanism by which it works. It is not a question of, oh, I have to act like I've mastered everything. It's divorcing your ego from the things that you're actually trying to attain. And then you'll be able to go in there. You'll be able to slide in there, that kind of vision. So does that kind of suffice as the initial phase of, like, okay, the mechanism by which it works, before we go into, okay, here's how you kind of work the program? Okay. I mean, any questions about that part?
And kind of like, when you hear, and I guess the reason I was using the dating coaches was because the whole abundance mindset is more of a fake it until you make it type deal, right?
You see, fake it till you make it is a adjacent kind of applicable term that you could say. In other words, but it needs to be used with. I mean, you have to have some sense. You know where it applies. In other words, you're faking a state as though you already have something, but it's not necessarily faking the state, but faking may be a way of practicing it. Right? So let's say you visualize, right? You're a boxer, right? And you do practices. You make sure that you're landing nice, efficient blows and everything, and you're very effective with your targeting and so on and so forth. But you may also need to do, as you know, to go listen to Mike Tyson, go listen to all these people. You need to do mental practices, right? You need to do practices that have to do with visualization. So you might have to visualize knocking that person out. Now, when you visualize knocking the person out, you are putting yourself in a fake it till you make it state, okay? But it's as a way of being able to acclimate your body, right? Because it's gonna feel like something. You're gonna induce through your visualization reactions in your body, right? Because you can scare yourself with a thought, right? Right? Or you can scare yourself with with a movie. You get what I'm saying? We can affect heart rate, body temperature, muscle spasms, all kinds of things. You could get a heart attack because somebody showed you a picture of something, right? So you get the point. So by the visualization, you're inducing a state in your body that's kind of getting your body in the state of what does it feel like to knock the person out? What does it feel like to land that kick? So it's like a way of training because it's like software training. Yeah, the hardware hasn't kicked the person yet. You can say it's fake it till you make it, but no, it is more of it is you're mimicking a state that you haven't gotten to yet. But in order to get to the state, you kind of have to mimic it. It's kind of a catch-22. You got to mimic the state to get to the state.
Okay. And I totally get what you're saying. And I do think that there is a lot of validity towards the whole fake it if you make it, right? But I guess with some guys who it might be an execution issue, right? And that is probably another topic. The reason why I brought Nihilus to begin with, Ike, is because as I was telling you behind the scenes, I've noticed a lot of that, as I mentioned, come into fruition in the manosphere. And to me, when I hear those type of talking points, there seems to be a lot of, oh, the world is burning and there's no hope, and a lot of scarcity, which is the opposite, as you mentioned, to abundance, right? And so, yeah, we can give you the typical, like you mentioned, Ike, a step-by-step thing, but the reality is that to completely change your mindset, right, from scarcity to abundance, in my opinion, for most people, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you would agree with that, right? But the reality is, when you look at that, and this is why I brought up the successful people. I know for a fact, you're not going to hang around a negative guy for too long if every time he comes this,
interesting,
it costs too much to get into this club, or I don't. Right, Ike, do you get where I'm coming from on that?
Because you were talking about those habits, right? Mm-hmm. The habits that they have, and then because what is gonna end up happening is those habits are gonna appear as we talk, right? But we're not trying to give like, oh, you just have these habits, right? Go ahead and have these habits, and then you have an abundance mindset. Ding, ding, ding. 5 things successful people do. It's like, come on, that's not the point. You got to work your way from the ground up there sometimes, right? Okay. So the negativity thing, because these thoughts, okay, we know that the brain takes a lot of energy, right? In terms of the usage of energy of our system, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
A pretty significant amount for a pink piece of meat up here, right? So, point is, these thoughts, okay, that you're having about why things are not possible are actually energetically costly. It's like imagine you're in a video game again, and you're in Mario Brothers, and you're generating more blocks, fireballs, and boulders and little turtles coming at you than are necessary. It's like there's life already with its energetic blocks and the fact that there is gravity and you have to walk around and you got to be healthy, you got to breathe in this, that, the other, sleep, so on and so forth. You're creating other energy impediments for yourself, thresholds that you have to overcome. You literally, and the reason why I'm talking energy stuff, because it's literal, and also because I'm trying to de-psychologize it rather than talk about, well, the psychology, it's a bad thought. And it's like, no, well, why is it bad? It's because it is a block towards certain outcomes that you want. And it's an energetic block. Like it actually takes energy to overcome it. That's why when you put it there, it is less like you're putting obstacles in front of yourself. That's what that negative thing is. Because if again, you're practicing the ways in which, and this will be the next step, I presume, because we've said, okay, this mindset of scarcity looks at the world as a world where things cannot be moved. The mindset of abundance looks at the world as a world where you can take action and move things. Okay, maybe you can't slash the mountain down with with the palm of your hand, right? But I can run and to the side of it and maybe find a burrow and go across it, something like that, right? So now there's a question of how do the bad vibes arise and how do they hinder you? The bad vibes are represented by that person, like you said, who's negative, right? And by that person, it's also you. If you allow yourself to be negative, right? How does it come about, right? You're going to feel it somehow, some way. It's going to arise in you. You're going to be reacting to something and you're going to want to notice it. You're going to want to notice whenever you react negatively to any kind of a thing and you see that it is just it's like this trigger, literally, got pulled. Some energy now is getting spent that need not be spent, and that's actually blocking you from doing the real-time critical thinking which you need to do in order to play Mario Brothers. Because you see, the thing about looking at the world like Mario Brothers, and which is the growth mindset analogy that I like to use, then you gotta have some real time. You gotta be watching the board, right? You got the screen. You gotta be watching what's going on, moving, jumping, ducking, grabbing this, doing that, shooting fireballs, whatever it may be, right? Hence, the whole idea of critical thinking becomes important when you look at the world as a place where you can actually make moves and so on and so forth. But whenever that feeling comes up, you gotta watch it. But let's say it has happened. How does it block you actively from doing something? So it takes away focus from things that you should be focusing on, right? In terms of actually using mental energy. It will do such things as increase your heart rate and also make your breath shallower. And that's the last thing you want when things get... Is Falcon Black still around? When things get dicey, the last thing you want is get all shallow breath and all kinds of whatever. No. That's when you want to be calm. That's when you want breath to be deep. You want to be keen. You want to be right there. So you have a problem, okay? Rather than focus, keen, how do we do this? It's a Mario Brothers game after all. You go into a shutdown mode, right? Where it is the fear, the negativity, it's just blocked. You're no longer in real time perceiving the real world. It is a replay, after all, of past thoughts and so on and so forth. And then heart rate going up, breath getting shallow. You're not even present, right? That's the road to death. Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta have that breathing control. No matter how much small space you have for your lungs or whatever, you gotta know how to work that lung system. Why? Because it's kind of the biggest kind of organ right there in the torso. And guess what? The torso is where a lot of feelings go on. Okay. You don't get angry in your pinky toe or your small finger, right? Do you feel pissed off in your thumb? That's a real question, Solo.
I mean, unless you think you're Frieza in Dragon Ball Z.
And you're like, oh, you're gonna do the Gallic gun like Vegeta does this, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you're about to hit him with a Gallic gun real quick, then you're not getting angry in your finger. There are things that happen in the chest. There are things that happen in the stomach. Sinking sensation maybe, or heart palpitations. Feels like someone ripped my heart out of my chest. Blah, blah, blah. In other words, you feel a lot of emotions in your torso. Okay? Hence, you should be paying attention to your torso. So how do we go from abundance mindset to pay attention to your torso? We said abundance mindset is a mindset of looking at the world as a forum for action. How you need to, a place where you can play Mario Brothers. It's Mario Brothers. It's not just some kind of fixed story. And we say that in order to do that, first you have to compete with yourself from the past. So you got to like look at things and improvements as worthwhile, and then that action is kind of primary. And we say that, well, how does negativity, how does the fixed mindset kind of possess you? Okay, it possesses you through feelings and blah 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 blah, and they attack you at the torso. That's where the spirit grabs a hold of you, and you got to pay attention to the cardiovascular system, the constricting of certain things, and always you want to expand out, right? You want to make sure that system is balanced, spine straight, all that kind of stuff. It's very vital. The meat vehicle is very vital to a lot of these things that people may just think are just purely cerebral and so on and so forth. And that's why I said I'm not going to give you a list, right? Oh, here's a list of things that you can do. It's like, no, the list will come out afterwards, after you understand that, hey, it really is about looking at action first, and it's really about not falling into a bad side of nihilism, and then it's about watching your reactions, the reactions and of the scarcity and fear and so on and so forth.
I find it interesting that you bring up breathing, because you and I, we talked about that in a year ago, right? And one of the things that we talked about was meditation, right? And I mentioned in the stream how when I meditate consistently, how it's been, it's a beautiful effect for me, right? And one thing about meditation is that it truly allows me to be a self introspective in the moment, in real time, right? And it's kind of like the more you meditate, as you probably have experienced as well, the more you're able to focus on the present, right? Being in the now instead of always being in the past or in the future, which most people are either in one or the other, right? Now, the reason I bring this up is because you bring up breathing. So one of the things that when I meditate is, taking deep breaths, right? And that allows me to be focused in the now. Another thing I've noticed, and I'm just bringing this up here to finish my point, is that when I'm working out, for example, when I'm doing my interval running, I've noticed that when I'm more focused on my breath and breathing, my workouts tend to be better. Where if I'm just listening to music, then my breathing is like, when you're just breathing. But when you control your breathing, it allows me then to be in a rhythm while I'm working out, while I'm running. So when I'm hitting each stride, I'm breathing accordingly. My body's synchronized to my, surroundings, or where, what I'm doing, and I'm focused. And there's certain things that athletes, they sometimes, they call it, when they get into like a very good rhythm, they call it getting into the zone, right? And I think that you can experience that as well when you're doing certain things, when you're truly focused and you're enjoying it. Like when I work out, there are times where I'm just in the zone and then it just happens automatically, where then I don't have to focus on my breathing anymore because it's doing it automatically. You know what I mean? And I say that because when you look at a lot of things from people who are dealing with scarcity, and I used to do this too, is it's always comes from a victim mindset, right? And a mindset that, oh, it's the world that is the problem. It's not me. I don't have to do anything. But here's the thing. If I keep eating junk food and expect to lose weight, how am I going to lose weight if I'm eating McDonald's every day? That's not realistic, So what I'm saying, Ike, is with scarcity mindset, and as you mentioned with ego, I noticed that there are a lot of men, and I have to bring this up, who have cognitive dissonance because they're letting their ego get in the way of really being introspective with themselves to a very honest point where they're able to really break certain things down, And so when I look at this, I think that a lot of people, they don't even realize their negative emotion because they then start to use that cognitive dissonance to rationalize it, where they're always the victim. And we are in the era of everybody wants to be outrage, right? Fake outrage. Oh, Bill Cosby got out of jail. Fake outrage. When most of the people who are on Twitter doing that, they don't even give a hoot about Bill Cosby, Ike, but they want to be outraged because now they're seen, now they have attention. I take it from there. I think you get where I'm going with this. If you want to add on, or if you want to correct anything that I'm saying.
It is, there are many things there that you mentioned, right? There is the whole kind of, but one of the big things is the ego that you mentioned, which I had alluded to earlier by saying that the ego, if you were to take things out of it, then detach, if you will, from that which you want, again, that'll lead you to. So what are some practical, let me see if there's some practical things that I could say here, because one thing to add is these habits that we've been talking about as a result of these mechanisms that work, right? Whereby if you look at the world as a place for action and you look at action as primary and you do take action, you actually end up having the results, right? To prove it's on. And then there's a fake it till you make it aspect, because yes, you do have to start acting right now, right? In other words, you have to start acting right now. You have to start looking at the world as Mario Brothers right now, even if you don't even believe you're Mario, right? Yeah. You just got to start doing it right now, and then it'll become true. So what to do about that in terms of, because I already mentioned before, I said kind of competing, when it comes to competition, you should be competing with your future self, right? I mean, yourself from the past, right? And doing all those kinds of comparisons. The other thing is to say yes, and for obvious reasons, because what the saying yes forces you to do is to look at the world as a place where action can be taken, right? Whether you know how to do it right now or not doesn't really matter, okay? 100% I can tell you that even in my business recently, and as often is the case, because you got to expand sometimes, you go into things that you've never done before, but you say yes, right? You say yes to the client, right? And what did I have to do? I had to go and learn some basics about some particular kind of HVAC system for growing operations, like, for hydroponic growing operations, right, in Canada. So it's like, looking at this guy, looking at the saying yes, therefore it's like, okay, now it becomes a problem, because it becomes a puzzle. You got to do something, right? So you say yes to a customer, you say yes to your aunt, you say yes to somebody. It gives you a responsibility. Now you catch that responsibility. What are you going to do with it? You have to look at the world as a growth mindset, as a place where you can run, jump, duck, learn, pass it on to somebody else, to pay somebody to do it for you, right? And then give whatever it may be, right? Getting in the habit of saying yes. Oh, it's like the things that happen in the level of Mario Brothers. Those are the things that happen, right? You saying yes, and then it comes at you, and you're like, how am I going to solve it, right? Because with that, there's going to be years of compounding. And this is the part that I think that escapes all of us as human beings, because we don't necessarily think about exponential growth very well. It's not in our nature, right? But the compounding is what really gets you there. So, because some people are like, oh, well, I tried thinking positively for like 4 months, and I wasn't rich, that kind of stuff. So basically, is the attitude of having the world appear to you.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Not to cut you off, Ike. Or I approached 5 pogs and I didn't get my pog yet. I'm sorry, Ike. I had to throw that in there real quick.
yeah. You did that. And it didn't work, and so now to hell with it. In certain instances where it's just some simple critical thinking, where you just have to look at the numbers, for example, and probably you need to approach 120. But who gives a damn, anyways, about your pog problems? Keep your pog problems to yourself, Solo and the pog crew. However, the idea of always saying yes.
We're done, guys. No, I'm joking. We're done.
Yeah, just say yes. Yes is the thing that then makes it happen. Yes is the thing that makes you look at the problem and solution all of a sudden. Yes is the thing that says, okay, there's a way for me to study this. There's a way for me to get maximum information from the client. There's a way for me to call my resources and bring these people in to learn the HVAC system. And I'm learning from the client as he's learning from me. There's a way to kind of manage the whole perception of such that the client does not see that this is my first time doing a job like this and all that kind of stuff. And I managed all of that through, and it worked out. So the idea is, if I didn't say yes to that kind of a thing, I will not get the opportunity to play that level, right? I'll not get the opportunity to either live or die at that level of Mario Brothers, right? So it's like, you got to say yes. It is a major aspect of the growth mindset. It's a major aspect of looking at the world as a place where you do have some agency and action can be taken, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to simplify this conversation a little bit. I always, this might be a silly question, but I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. Do you watch? Have you ever watched Naruto, Ike?
Yeah, it was never like my favorite because there was no because, right? It just I never kind of got into it. I was busy being a emo Inuyasha watcher and Samurai X, Rurouni Kenshin, that kind of stuff. You may not know any of those, but
yeah, I'm
like,
not that old, Ike.
Oh, damn. Okay, good. Right there
I'm messing
in the
with
torso.
You.
But I only just see a couple of episodes of it and stuff like that. But what about Naruto and his never ending growth in ninja powers?
Well, I guess because it's not a secret. I'm a Naruto viewer, right?
Yes, not a secret.
And I would say that when you look at Naruto, right, he was considered the bastard child of the village, and he was ostracized because of that, right? But Naruto had this insane belief in himself that he would one day become Hokage, to the point that the whole village laughed at him. But in Naruto, when you see, and this is one of the reasons I like Naruto, it goes through his growth, and you see him go from a middle school age boy to a teenager to a man, right? And you see every time when he faces an obstacle, how he has that insane belief in himself. Even if when he's getting his ass kicked, he still will get back up. Now, here's the thing, somebody might say, well, how is that abundance mindset, right? And I look at it as, this is a guy who nobody really had any high expectations of him, right? And he has exceeded all expectations. I guess what I'm asking is, how much of abundance mindset is a genuine, authentic self-belief in yourself? Or is that me conflating the two?
So that's a very good question, but one way to kind of put it is like, okay, I've been using this analogy so far. If you are a person in world A, and how you look at world A is that you can't move anything and you can't go anywhere, right?
Oh, Ike,
or you're a person.
Just to let you know, Ike, if it sounds like gunshots, it's not. It's fireworks. Just don't worry about me, Ike. But if you hear me now, then you know what's up. But no, it's just fireworks. Just wanting to let these white folks here, they like to do that. So my bad, Ike. Go ahead.
No problem. If you're a person in world B, which I described, where it's like a video game and you can do things, in which world do you have more confidence?
The world where I'm the master of my own ship?
Well, then it is by definition the same thing, in other words, right? Like, so it's not a question of needing to review that through a different perspective. We are just calling it a certain kind of self-confidence, said another way. But the reason why I'm not going to come and just say, oh, it's a certain kind of self-confidence, because it's akin to that whole list again. What does it mean to just come and tell somebody that what they should do is be self-confident. That doesn't do anything for anybody, right?
Right. Agreed.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So sometimes, as I said, there's this kind of a action potential or some kind of a push you got to give people on two ends of things. One is the emotional end, and the other is on the mental end. And so far, we're doing the mental end by just kind of painting the picture, so that rather than think of it as self-confidence, you just think of it like, oh, it's that video game mentality where things can be moved. I can jump. I have a say. Mario has a say. The world in Mario Brothers has a lot to say too, right? But Mario has a say. I can still try. I mean, I keep dying at this stage of this, but I could try something, right? So that is the core thing there. And then when you say yes, which is now just a behavior thing to try, right? Rather than be saying the no, it's gonna force you into a certain kind of a situation. Okay, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? So, and that forcing you into the situation will form habits, and then now these habits will lead you along, because a habit is just kind of like a little layer, a foundation for you to stand on, and then you stand on top of that, and then you form better habits, and you keep building up, right? In other words, you're outsourcing certain kinds of behavioral patterns to the automatic system. I got good habits means I wake up at a certain time and I always eat the right things. I always go to the gym. I don't have to think about it. I don't spend energy, right, having to think about these things. So in the same way, you can develop these patterns such as competing with yourself from the past and always saying yes. For example, action is always primary, a third aspect, which just flows directly out of our definition of the growth mindset as a world, as a forum for action, right? So action flows out of that too. And these things develop habits, and these habits will then help you. They're like building blocks. That's how you go from Super Saiyan 1 to Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, right? Because you gotta like solidify the boom, and then now you're breathing. You don't even have to meditate on your breathing. Your breathing mode is like done. Now you're like in mental blah blah blah. This.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Ike is the only one that I can do a live stream with, and I'm not going to be shouting, you know what I'm saying? So kudos to you. When you look at this abundance mindset, right? A lot of people like to use that in the form of getting women or getting rich, right? Or making a lot of money, right? But I think that also, Ike, it's not as easy as, okay, well, I have an abundance mindset. I'm going to be rich tomorrow, right? I mean, I believe that our words have a lot of power. We can manifest and speak certain things into existence, right? And on the flip end, you can do that too by negatively sabotaging yourself, when I look at what's going on in this space, especially since the 19 happened, in this world, let's be honest, Ike, there's a lot more negativity. And I know right now I'm rambling because I'm trying to gather my thoughts as I'm speaking with you. But I realize that a lot of particularly younger men have given into this scarcity nihilistic mindset, right? And to me, I understand that we are living in bad times. However, it's kind of like, what is it that I'm trying to say? The reality is, like, when you look at somebody who has this abundance mindset, right, which I think that you have, which I think Nate has, and other people that I know, it's a mindset of that is not just abundant in terms of energy or money and things like that, but it's in a way being in tune with your higher self. You know what I mean? That you have access to certain things that
you know why Or you know what? I think you've
Mhm.
done some broad strokes around the area of the canvas there that I think I get what you're painting.
Mhm.
Your thoughts, as you called it.
Mhm.
So, but the fact that this abundance mindset is in line with what one may consider things such as higher self, or even things that are in the realm of spiritual values, I think it's well encapsulated in the story of Cain and Abel, right? Because Cain was the nihilist. Cain was the one like, oh, it never works out for me, and things are not worth it, and blah 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 blah. Right? I can't do anything about this, and I'm jealous of the blah 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 blah. So, because I think perhaps the jealousy and the bitterness also tends to be part and parcel, depending on. Anyways, Cain was a particular kind of nihilist, right? As you mentioned before, you can have different behaviors that result, but the mindset is the same. That says that being in itself is insufficient. It is unjust. Being is not good. I am angry at being. I'm angry at the fact that I am. And I'm angry at the world the way it is. And I'm not taking responsibility. Okay. I'm not taking responsibility for my part in the action, right? And we can kind of see that that is a story that resonates with all of us. Okay. And if you go through different cultures, there is a similar notion of this kind of rejection of life being evil, right? So to reject life, to be nihilistic of a certain sort, because, and I'm trying to say it of a certain sort just because there is a technical nihilism, which doesn't necessarily mean it's just kind of like it's like a philosophical point, right? But that aside, Cain was evil because he did not have the abundance mindset. Would you push back against that?
Um, uh, yeah, and on top of that, he, was lazy.
Yeah, so lazy, not having the abundance mindset, being resentful, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
So
I agree
what
with
would be the opposite? Like if we were to look at being as worthwhile, right? In other words, it seems to be the case that we don't have to. Anyways, let's not get overly, because I think you painted again a general kind of like a, was it, why is it seems to be aligned with values that even rise up to a higher level than you may expect to them to be. You may have expected it to just be pragmatic. That, oh, have a growth mindset and you too can have a BMW, something like that, right? Well, you're saying it's a little bit more than that, right? And we're saying that because it really does go to your affirmation or rejection of being itself. Because if you were to affirm being, that it is good that I am, it is good that I exist right here and right now, and I am thankful, I am grateful, right, for God, my creator, my existence, whatever it may be, right? Then you are going to look at the world as a place. It's almost like by definition, that is a view of the world that is more positive. Positive meaning action oriented, beyond, rather than negative, which is just, it's fixed. In other words, an appreciation of being in and of itself, a non-rejection of being, I would say, leads directly to looking at the world as a forum for action and as a place where you have agency, a place where you have a soul and there's a story to be told and so on and so forth, right? And it matters, right? So I think that is why it is tied to values that are higher than simply pragmatic ones.
Mm. No. It's very interesting, because usually when I have guests on, I seldom write in my notebook, but with you, I take a lot of notes. So
that's good. Maybe you can be the ghostwriter of my book.
Oh boy, that reminds me. There's a book I'm supposed to be working on, but we'll see. We'll see. I look at what you said about the whole breathing thing. So, for example, a nihilist would say, well, it's all about looks, money, and status, right? I can't do anything about my face. This is the face that God gave me. So even if I get skinny, I'm still not gonna get women, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
when people look at abundance mindset, let's bring it back to the woman aspect here. To me, that's kind of entry level. You know what I'm saying? Um, Meaning that if well, I don't have any, I can't even get a girlfriend, but I want to have 3 women in my life. To me that seems kind of okay, and I'm not judging, but
Mm-hmm.
it seems kind of like it always gets abundance mindset. People always compare it to the quantity, not always necessarily the quality. You get what I'm saying? Ike?
Yeah, and that's
You can
why
have
I
3
completely.
women, but they're not gonna be baddies. And don't tell me 3 threes equal a 9. Okay, I'm not buying that. But do you get what I'm saying? Can abundance also be okay? And I'm using women as an example that
Mm-hmm.
you have a quality woman compared to a quantity of women, where the quantity of women may be lower quality, or is it to you, is abundance just about the fact that you do just have the option of women, even if it's not necessarily the women that you want?
Mm. So, and if you noticed, I have not given any quantitative markers with regards to abundance mindset, right? Because one says abundance, and one may think that we're going to immediately start counting things and say many things. Now, we said many things in one particular regard, but we used it as a way of putting us in a mindset. So when I said many things, I said imagine there's like 50 other women behind her, right? Such that your ego is not prone to be attacked by the rejection or whatever it may be. And this is true whether you're trying to close a deal or whether it's a woman you're talking about, or whether it be your finances or a job or any particular task. You need to face the task without ego in order to be clear about it, because ego tends to shade your sensory perception and your ability to critically think in real time quite a bit. Okay, so it's not about the quantity, it is about that state of mind where you are best primed for action, right? That's so hence I'm not going to be tempted, okay, into even giving any quantitative like, oh, you're going to have more stuff. The only thing I'm going to say is something I already said before, which is that there's going to be compounding effects, right? So they're going to be compounding effects, and at that point it does get quantitative. You do accumulate a certain kind of wisdom, you do accumulate a certain kind of a set of obstacles that you've overcome, such that you've now built sweat equity and all other kinds of equity, such that you have something to show for it. Because equity is about ownership, and you built the sweat equity as a result of having your abundance mindset over time. But really, what it's about is, are you action minded, and do you therefore look at the world as a place where your action has effect or not? Now, a way of getting in there, or the reason why, and a best mode of being there is if you are not hung up by evil spirits, like the spirit of scarcity, the spirit of I can't do this, the spirit of no one in my family has ever done this before, the spirit of but I'm a lame loser and my dad used to beat me as a kid. Those things that come up and try to hold you in the torso, as we said before, right? Being able to move those aside are akin and similar or the same thing as to having that ego clarity that I'm talking about, right? Because the ego comes up through the feelings in the body, the image in the head, and the talk in the head, and it does its thing. And you're trying to clear that up, because in clearing that up, that's how Mario can see what the real world is doing, and so he can hop and skip and move. So that's why these things are tied to each other, and it really is not about a number. However, right, the teaser is, yes, I'm not going to sit and tell you that, oh, this thing does not have any actual utilitarian or outside there in the world benefits, some pragmatic ends, for sure. We said it's more than pragmatic, right? So, of course, the accumulation, the compounding of the effects is going to be such that you're going to amass things, whatever it is you're trying to amass in your life, right? That will happen as a side effect, for sure.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, if you look at it in sales, right? Me coming from my pharmaceuticals background. And by the way, alternative medicine. No, I'm not talking about street. Every time I say alternative medicine, people say, wait, Solo, were you a drug dealer? Well, a legal one, okay? And yeah, we sold a lot of those blue pills. But the reality is that, and the reason I bring up the sales is because obviously, that if you work in a system where you're rated on your metrics, right, or you work as a commission-based salesman, right, you want to get as many sales as possible, right? But sometimes one big sale is better than having 10 small ones, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because that one big one, you might be able to go on vacation because of it. Where the 10 smaller ones, you still might not meet your metrics, even though you got 10 sales, right? Depending on
a lot of companies, like a lot of deals, right? Like let's say if I look at the revenue coming into Prometheus Engineering in like a 2-year or 1 year or 18-month span, right? We can take the big number, but then usually there's a spike of this one big project that comes close to even being 25 or 30% of your revenue for a whole year was for one big project, right? That kind of a thing. And then there's a steady stream of other kinds of projects. So as they say, quantity has a quality all of its own. So let's not make it seem like quantity does not also represent a certain kind of prowess. Quantity is also great as well, but quality is also great as well. But the truth is, it's not about either of those things, because it really isn't about whatever it is that you're getting in the world, which, by the way, if we're to stay with the story of Cain and Abel, that stuff is not yours anyways, and you sacrifice and you give it up and you are thankful to being itself, right, for giving you the privilege of amassing those things, right? But really, it's not about that. It truly is, and I think that's where you want it to. You want it to kind of go to like the fundamentals, right, of like of what it is. Unless I'm the one that wanted to do that, and I'm not putting it on you. But at the fundamental level, really, it is about that gratitude for being and seeing in real time the blessing that it is. That naturally is going to lead you to take more meaning to things and therefore want to participate, see your agency, and so on and so forth. That really what it's all about. That's really the beginning and the end of it. Okay? As a result of doing thusly, you will get all kinds of other things. Seek ye first. Go on, Solo. What are the rest of it? You telling me you don't know this line?
Wait, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added unto you. Is that what you? Yeah.
So that's basically what I'm saying. It's like, okay, all that stuff. Yeah, of course it'll come. But the main thing is this, and then the rest is just gonna come. Yeah,
it's funny because I made a stream last week or a week and a half or two ago. And I mentioned in the stream that every day when I, wake up and I go on my morning intermittent run, or just everyday period, that I try to mention 3 things that I'm thankful for, no matter how small or mundane they may seem. You know what I mean? Just to be appreciative of those little things, because too often, this is where scarcity comes in. We look at what we lack or don't have or what we want. And then that's where people become resentful, envious, jealous. That's where people's egos come in, right? Because I had to think a moment ago, and I was like, I'm very blessed in my life. Yeah, I might not be a crypto millionaire yet, but that's coming. That's coming. But I'm blessed because here's the thing: I have a good group of friends who encourage me, and I'm having conversations with people such as yourself, Ike, that I wouldn't have had 5 or 10 years ago, right? Me and Nate were at this hotel spot yesterday. And by the way, Ike, real quickly, I just got to say this. Yo, when you go to these like rich white people restaurant, their servings are small as hell, but the prices are too high. God, no, nah, man, like nah. But I think that sometimes we forget about that. Hold on, we got Xanadol's Clutch in the building with the first donation. He says, "Salute to you, Ike. But how do you fight the spirit of having to see your image fixed to poverty and crime while you don't have any cover from your own because you don't mimic criminal culture? That's my daily battle."
Dum.
Does that make sense to you, what he's asking?
Yeah, so the thing is, there are layers, and partially this is my doing, right? Because I like to look at things in layers, right? But also there are layers to his question inherently, I think, because there is the spiritual battle, which it's in and of itself has things that are particular to it that could be, so that's one thing, right? And then the spiritual battle of a particular sort now, of a ethnic reputation type sort, right? So that's the particular principality and power that we're going after. And then there is the social dynamics involved of, well, I'm not getting cover from my own because I don't. Okay, so you see, like there are three things kind of hovering here. So let me at least address a couple of them. The first one is with regards to the actual fight. Okay, the fight as it presents itself to your consciousness, because we're talking about mindset and we're talking about a subjective point of view, right? That one, fortunately or unfortunately, is always the same. In other words, the fight is going to come at you on your head and your torso. Okay. What do I mean by that? Well, basically it means that it is going to be those things that change your physical states, right? And the more, okay, that they have the capacity to change your physical state, okay, the more the physical state will be changed. However, you do have control on 2 points in this. The first is the control of the attack itself. In the sim, you're outraged, you're moved to a particular thing, you are demoralized because of a particular image that you saw, something like that, and you feel it in the gut, you feel it in the heart, you feel it in the chest, you feel it in the back of your ear, your skin is getting hot. All that stuff that happens in the physiology or physiognomy or whatever, right? There is that aspect, and how to take control of that and also be equanimous. Think yoga, think breathing, think meditation, right? We get that. In other words, the physical kind of martial arts that you have to do to fight your body and its reactions. And then there is the other side, whereby you can depopulate your ego bag of certain targets, right? Because this ethnic reputation is a target because it's a part of your identity, and it's in your ego bag, your identity bag. Now, if you have a way, and there is a way, of doing an inventory of your ego bag, your identity bag, and so on and so forth, and begin to decouple yourself from certain aspects, you're never going to get rid of your ego bag or its contents, right? You can only realign them, reshape them. It's like matter can never be created or destroyed or whatever. You can realign them and reshape them. You can make them lean, right? You have your ego attached to everything. It's one extreme, right? Your ego is attached to the color of your car and the fact that it's got leather seats and the fact that you're this and you were the first to graduate, whatever, and you were the first to ever learn to spell cat. If your ego is attached to everything, that's a problem, man. You're barely gonna be able to function. So you get the idea. The idea is kind of a quantitative reduction on the things that your ego, and the degree to which your ego is attached to particular. So in this case, it would be that ethnic reputation thing. So if that is simultaneously reduced on one side, and also on the other side, when you're actually having the reaction, the urge to scratch the itch that says, hey, this ego thing has been attacked, let me do something. There's also the mastery of self in that moment as well. So those two arts are what I would recommend, or that's kind of how I go about it.
Okay, thank you, Ike. And salute to Red Sings the Blues. He says, donation, Ike and Solo, going hard tomorrow with interviews. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know, Ike, if you caught last night's Ratchet interview with Jasmine.
Your interview, you did an interview?
Yeah, I did an interview. Well, it wasn't last night. Technically, it was like at 4 a.m. this morning.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Okay, thank God. That's that's what you saw at the beginning clip. It ended kind of ratchet. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. He says, my brothers, Solo TV, and Ike are plunging into the depths of the soul in order to, is it? Elucidate issues primary to existence. Do the work, gents. Whew, that's deep. That's deep. I like one of the things, and this is probably my last question I have for you, because this conversation is a lot for a guy with medium IQ to absorb. So I got to go back and take notes and go through this. You talked about the ego a lot, and I think that we all fall victim to it, right? I know I have. You see it on YouTube all the time when I go on one of my ego binges, right? However, I guess when you look at the ego, right, and whatnot, sometimes the ego, a lot of people associate the ego as being negative, but if you're able to manage your ego properly, I've noticed that it can actually help you and propel you to abundance or certain goals that you want to reach, right? Can you talk
talk
about that?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, can you talk about that? Because I don't want to keep rambling. So yeah.
Yeah, people are talking 85 IQ. So
No, my IQ is at 89.
85.
87.9. 87.9.
So in this whole thing that we've been saying, we've been talking about the ego as having its weak points, the ego as something to be watched out for, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we talked about Mario, right? But what we did not tell you, ladies and gentlemen, do you know the thing that we did not tell you? Here is the secret. Mario is also your ego. The person going around looking at the world as a opportunity to move, sidestep, deal, jump, shoot fireballs, and take good luck in the form of that star. That is also your ego. That is right. So I also mentioned that you'll never get rid of the ego, the identity back, right? It comes with the territory. Okay? It comes with the territory that as a human being, you're going to have an identity. Okay? That's particular to you from the inside. You're going to get it from the family that you're born into. There's a role that's going to be cast for you, a story that already started before you were born. There's going to be a result of your ethnicity, socioeconomic status, biometric data such as height, hair color, all that stuff, neck size. All that stuff is going to affect a story that you have about yourself. I am Solo, and Solo does this. Solo is this kind of man, and Solo does not take that ish. Okay, that even rhymed. So, you're not going to get rid of that bag that carries Solo or something. But it can be made very efficient, very skinny, and emptied out of superfluous, useless, needless encumbrances. Carrying a heavy ego bag around slows you down, and it can also be attacked. Okay? So the idea here is to have a healthy ego, Mario, looking at the world as a forum for action, always saying yes and staying accountable, understanding that he's responsible for his life, regardless of who may be to blame, for whom was the programmer that, created this particular level in the game, right? It doesn't matter any of that, but still you're able to, it's almost like the ego gets what it wants best. Surprise, when it's disciplined like anything else. Your muscles get what they want best, which is they want to move, they want to rock and roll, they want to party, right? That's what your muscles want to do. They get that best when they are stressed, when they are challenged, right? Same thing with your bones, same thing with your immune system, same thing with everything. So your ego needs to be disciplined as well in order for it to get what it wants. Because a healthy ego, a healthy Mario that does not have all these encumbrances and is self-aware and critical thinking, he is actually going to be more successful, which is what the ego wants after all, than one that is inflated and unhealthy. It's any particular tool needs to be sharpened, it needs to be practiced, it needs to be honed, and all these different aspects of ourselves, skills, psychology, biology, and everything needs to be stressed. There is no other. That is the rule, right? Ain't that right, Solo? You got to stress yourself. Otherwise, nothing. Otherwise, you die.
Yeah, I was stretching last night when I got hit by Jazz, but yeah, definitely. No, and I totally agree with you. And I do want to move to another topic because here. But before I move on to this topic, which is a little bit unrelated, but I want to touch on this with you because me and you, we've talked about this topic a lot, and this is a topic that we always talk on the phone about. But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about regarding abundance that we didn't touch on, or a question or anything that you wanted to go over real quick before we move on to the next topic for the last segment of the show?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, I think that generosity is something else that perhaps we didn't focus on, but it's part of the abundance mindset as well, right? That's the last thing I would just have to say, because I mentioned competing against with yourself from the past, right? And also we mentioned action oriented, right? And then generosity is something we did not necessarily mention, even though we mentioned always say yes, always have that kind of a going out there and saying stuff, right? Because generosity is that thing that makes it such that you practice. It's a form of exercise. When you give stuff away, it no longer has power on you, right? So if you're like so attached to this cup, for example, and this cup is so integral to your ego bag, to your identity bag, what you want to try to do is you want to try to give this cup away and fight the feelings again in your torso that this particular spirit, the spirit of the cup that has possessed you, okay, it's going to attack you. And then you're going to use that as a way of lifting weights, as a way of like, I'm going to fight through this. No, cup, you're not going to make my breathing shallow. You're not going to make me act a fool. You're not going to make me leave from my presence in terms of my present state of mind and awareness, concentration, so on and so forth. So you give that $20 away, give that cup away, give that whatever the hell it is away, so that it is not a master over you. And that is still part of the way of being in the best mode, suited to operating as a lean, mean Mario or Luigi, whoever your favorite character is in that video game, right?
Cooper, is that his name? The boss?
Yeah, Bowser
Yeah,
Cooper.
Yeah, facts.
That's you. Yeah, it makes sense. This guy.
I want to reel for the last 10 minutes of the show here. I met you in LA last year around this time, September of 2020, right? And we spoke about crypto, which I wasn't very contributive to the conversation. But now fast forward, almost a year later, right? When you and I spoke, I remember very well, the Bitcoin was at about 11,000, around that area, right? Mm-hmm. Now, last time I checked, hold on, let me look at my livecoinwatch.com. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin is at $35,380. So
Ethereum has been doing a better recovery lately than Bitcoin. What is Ethereum right now? Do you?
Ethereum is at $2,326.02, and obviously with Ethereum, the London fork is happening right now as we speak, where Ethereum is moving from proof of work
to
proof of state, right? So that means that the Ethereum supply, there's not going to be any new Ethereum mined, and so it's going to create a scarcity of Ethereum, therefore driving the price up, right, and whatnot. Now, fast forward, right? When we first spoke about crypto, you were just kind of getting into it. But now, almost a year later from our conversation, what are your thoughts right now on cryptocurrency? And by the way, let me publicly apologize to you again. You told me about Dogecoin, and I looked at you like you were crazy. I was like,
No, it is crazy. Why should it go up? But it did. But the thing is, I knew, I guessed at that time, I made an estimate based on some, basic technical analysis that I kind of see out there. And I was like, I think Dogecoin is going to pump. I only made like 300%. Like I didn't make the maximum out of it, but I went in, I tripled my money real quick. And I came out and it worked out.
yeah. And so I need you to tell me, like, what's the next Doge, man? Let me.
Oh, well, you know what? Let me answer your question about, because you had already asked one question about my thoughts since the last conversation.
Of course. See, that's how I get carried away. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned that, yeah. I was just getting into it, and I was just getting into what exactly the blockchain is. What problem does it solve vis-a-vis money? What is money, and what is the problem of money, and why do we have these intermediaries? What problem do they represent, and what is the deal with the central banks, which is an internal story of intertwined with everything. But since then, I have more coins, right? I've made some crazy gains such that I now have those diamond hands that people talk about in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum. I made ungodly profits in Bitcoin and Ethereum last year. Nothing crazy, right? But just in other words, I came in right at March of 2020, right? We know the market crashed, right? The market went all the way down. Now, I've been watching Bitcoin for a while. I've been watching Bitcoin since Andreas Antonopoulos showed up in the Joe Rogan podcast for the first time, right? So back then, before anybody knew anything about Bitcoin, when it was like, I don't know, $7 or something. So I've been watching it, but I didn't go in. I had other things to worry about. I'm not, in certain regards, I'm not the first jumper in, right? So it did its thing, and then it came back down, and then I was watching, and then March 2020, boom, dropped down, okay? Bitcoin went to like the $6,000 level even, and then Ethereum was pretty low. That's when I started buying, okay? I started buying, and I bought and sold and dollar cost averaged and flipped in all kinds of stuff all the way up to the, I didn't do all my sell. I didn't do any bulk of my selling at the peak, like at 60,000, but I made more than enough, and I still have more than enough in there, such that I got the diamond hands right now that I think that I'm playing with a lot of house money right now, right? So I'm going to ride it out, and I think that in a year and a half or so, what I mean is within 18 months, okay, we're gonna get to another peak. We may not get there, or maybe a different story. Okay, maybe be the beginning of a bear market. I get it, right? But to say that, and then also to say that I have more coins. Go ahead.
I hate to cut you off because because I just hate to cut you off, and I know you find it annoying. So let me ask you this real quick: Do you think that we're do you think that we're still in a bull market, and this is just a bear trap, or do you think we're in a bear market? What are your thoughts? Because there's been a lot of sideways action for the last 3 months. So, where do you think?
So the thing about it is, when it comes to technical analysis, you see some that say that could tell you one way, and the other things that could tell you that it's going in another way. My overall bet, right? Because that's a good indication of belief. Like Jordan Peterson says, it's like, I act as if God exists, like belief, show me your actions. That's a real thing about, the whole thought, belief, whatever. I can talk about what I believe all day, but I'm betting on that it's going to rise up again. It's going to peak again before we stabilize into the actual bear market. So I'm betting in that direction. Same thing for the altcoins. I'd mentioned that I've gathered some more because I had Bitcoin, Ethereum. I did the Doge thing as well, but now I got Cardano, I got Tezos, I got what's the name of that? Atom by Cosmos.
That's a good pickup. The DeFi is definitely, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with DeFi because you can stake it and make money in a real bear that way. But continue.
I got Ren BTC today.
You got Ren too?
Yeah, I got Ren.
Okay, I got Ren too. It was recommended to me by a crypto millionaire, but I'll be honest with you, it hasn't done shit for me. Excuse my language. Yeah, but
Uh, so I see Dollar Will in the chat. That's
Shout out to Dollar Will.
shout out to Dollar Will. Yeah. So the thing about what I've learned along the way. Okay, the first part was me just saying, look, I've been lucky, and here's one thing also that is very fundamental to when people ask you, what would you do, or what should I do, right? It 100% depends on your history. When did you come into the market? If your average cost for Bitcoin right now is like under $10,000, you know what I mean? Where you bought a bunch of Bitcoin, it was cheap, and that's kind of where you've been, then what you do is quite different from somebody who bought at 20K or somebody who bought at 40K, right? So, what to do, what trades you're making, and so on and so forth, regardless of the outcomes that the technical analysis are pointing to, is highly dependent on your past history. I mean, would you not agree to that, Solo? That is a key thing that I think that people tend not to just say in terms of going around asking people, well, what should I do? It's like, well, what is your situation? Because for me, with all this house money, I can afford to bet on this long bet of another peak coming up, right? Maybe we might go down to 24 before we get to the peak. I don't know, right? But that's the bet. But it's because I got a lot of house money in there.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, that's kind of that is a big part of why I'm able to make that bet, even though there's some technical analysis that may bear it out and some hopium attached and all that other good stuff. But what you do heavily depends on your history in the market.
Oh yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I don't, technical analysis is great, right? Because you need, especially if you're a day trader, you need to know what you're doing so you don't get wrecked, right? I do, however, and this is from my research the last several months, as well as paying attention to a lot of the fundamentals and social media and sentiments and just paying attention to the market.
Mm-hmm.
This market has been heavily manipulated. If it wasn't for all this manipulation, in my opinion, we would be at a $3 trillion market cap right now. You know what I mean? Bitcoin would easily be at 80 or 90,000 right now, maybe even at 100. There's no doubt in my mind, right? However, you mentioned one of my favorite words earlier, diamond hands, right? What happened, Ike, and you saw this, what happened when Doge pumped up to 71 cents, right? Well, guess what? Elon Muskie, and I don't rock with that guy, okay? Elon Muskie went on SNL and said that, crypto is basically a scam. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you saw people selling left and right. Mm-hmm. What I think the manipulation was, Ike, is to shake out the weaker hands so that way.
Yeah, at least it is an indication, right? It is a worthwhile index as to, one could argue, well, how many people saw him, how many people take him seriously, so on and so forth. But it did happen, right? A trigger effect. And you can kind of look at the quantities of people and the quantities of the sale in order to perhaps gauge the people whom are in for it for a certain, because we want to gauge the diamond handlers. And that whole thing about diamond hand is part of it is the difference between investing and doing movement type stuff. Now, I'm not a big movement guy, but I watched the thing, made some money out of the thing. I don't got no beef with the thing. I think that the principles make sense. I'm somewhat of a libertarian myself when it comes to my economic / political leanings. And it's like, I'm kind of down with the whole crypto crowd. But it's not a good substitute for good market analysis, fundamental analysis and technical analysis. And to a great extent, certain kinds of technical analysis in a market that is like this are still the main thing. The movement stuff of like, oh, I got diamond hands and I got laser eyes and we're gonna take over the world.
Well, yeah, and
that stuff will get you wrecked if you don't think smart still.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you on that, and that's one of the reasons why I always, number one, say this is not financial advice. Do your research, but also the beautiful part now about cryptocurrency is that we have enough data now to look at the technical analysis. You know what I mean? We know the 4-year cycles. We know all that. I personally, I believe we're still in a bull run. And I've been told to keep my mouth shut. Listen, guys, I've been told by certain entities to keep my mouth shut.
Oh, sure. Oh, you got the inside. You got the inside scoop. You went up in the spaceship. It took you up in the spaceship to the 7th cloud. They fucking they put it down and say, hey, Solo, it's gonna be like this. You can't tell anybody though, right? Okay.
I'll tell you like behind the scenes because but yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get in trouble. Shout out to Damon Wade with the $5 super chat. He says, salute to you, Solo, for dropping lit content like always. Thank you. Appreciate you with the donation, and I appreciate, more importantly, I coming through. Light Nation Universe says, go for other lower coins. I'm doing that now. Ninjas, please stop worrying about Bitcoins. If you're late, you're late. Go after lower coins. Shout out to you, Light Nation Universe. Yeah, and I speak on that as well.
Yeah,
on
that
my
makes sense. Yeah. Go ahead.
Trendsetter cryptocurrency course. I speak about the volatility, the risk of altcoins, because we do know 90% of altcoins won't be around 3 to 5 years from now, right, Ike? But somehow your Dogecoin made.
Now it's my Dogecoin.
Yeah, I think that, Ike, regardless, there's been a lot of FUD, right? FUD is fear, uncertainty, doubt, negative news. But there's also been a lot of positive news in the crypto space regarding adoption. Look at El Salvador, for example, right? They have basically said that we accept Bitcoin now. And I think that they gave everybody $30 worth, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of fiddle around with it to see how it works, right? Robert Kiyosaki, Ike, and I uploaded a video yesterday. I don't know if you saw it or not. But Robert Kiyosaki mentioned in a recent interview that the biggest market crash will happen in the stock market. And, his logic to me is very sound, because you look at it for the last year and a half, this economy has been kind of stagnant, but we've been printing trillions regarding stimulus money, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think, Ike, because I know you're a stock guy originally before you went to crypto, do you think that what Kiyosaki said is fear mongering, or do you think he has merit that, you know what, this is going to be like 2008 all over again because of the last year and a half of what we've been dealing with, this 19? And obviously I'm saying 19 because YouTube likes to censor words or demonetize for that word.
Okay. So there are two things that you mentioned there. You talked about El Salvador, for example. You talked about some things that may be on the news category.
Yes, I did.
Because there's fundamentals, there's technicals, and then there's that news thing about like how events and China's going to do this affects the. Some people like to think that that's part of the fundamental. I think I want to separate that kind of news analysis, adoption analysis, even as separate from fundamentals, because I want fundamentals to kind of be clean in terms of utility and certain kinds of things like that. So, yes, we do see that there is a possible road for crypto to be adopted by more and more entities, institutions, nations, and so on and so forth. And the way it all still turns out, or the press or the final price, that's a slightly separate issue, okay? But there is a bull story out there for, not just to say blockchain, just to say it, but the actual applications of blockchain in form of cryptocurrencies and the DeFi and in the network that's already there right now, right? That it is going to end up it is going to end up revolutionizing many things, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that it's like when the internet came. Wait,
right? Ike, they have a coin now called Podcoin. I just wanted to throw that up there real quick. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm interested. So the thing about it is that there's a big kind of whole adoption and bullish story there about the blockchain. That is, I'm kind of down with that We don't necessarily know, however, what the final shakeout will be, because it's kind of when the internet came, Amazon lasted, right? But pets.com didn't last. You get the idea, right? On the question, right? The secondary question that you asked, which Robert Kiyosaki, right?
The big market crash.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
He is always going to be right about something like that, right? Because when it comes to market crashes, it's always bigger than the last one, because the idea is you pop something and then you overinflate such that each time you do this printing in order to make things change,
You're talking
you
about
reduce.
a bubble, Ike. Is that right?
I'm talking about a bubble, yes.
Okay,
A bubble, generally speaking, broad strokes wise, the feeding in of liquidity from the federal banks. It's not very direct like that per se, but they do the quantitative easing thing and there's liquidity inside, the bubble increases. The more you do that, the less you reduce the effects that it has the next time. What I mean is, if you do a $1 billion, stimulus package, right? If you do a $1 billion stimulus package, the next time you have to do a stimulus package is going to need to be like $3 billion. And the next time you do a stimulus package is going to need to be like 10 billion. That's the way it works, right? So him saying that it's going to be the biggest crash is just true whenever the crash happens. So the two things here. Number one, there's the booms and the busts of the market cycle, business cycle, capitalism 101. Or maybe not even the capitalism thing. Maybe it's just economies generally speaking, right? So that cycle is going to happen. And when in this whole world of Fed liquidity, blah, 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 stimulus and, kind of infusing, do this quantitative easing, the next time you do it, it's got to be bigger, right? So the next bubble is always the bigger bubble. So he's saying two things where he can't be wrong. So he's doing his key. He's being a marketer, putting himself out there, saying certain things. Doom and gloom draws ears, and so on and so forth. And he's not wrong that the next one is going to be the biggest one, because the next one is always the biggest one, right? So far, because they tend to get bigger, right? So,
wait, can I clarify? I'm sorry, for context. He mentioned that it would happen very soon. Obviously, we know markets crash or corrections happen, then they go back up. We know that. But he's saying that this will happen this year, just to give more context.
He said that that's kind of part of his thing to say that kind of stuff. It's like Peter Thiel. No, not Peter Thiel. Peter Schiff. You know Peter Schiff, the gold guy?
Yeah. I'm familiar with Peter Schiff.
Okay.
I've seen some of his work. Yes, sir.
Peter Schiff is gonna crash, it's all going to hell guy too. And he's also correct. Yaba Kiyosaki could be correct in terms of his timeline, but typically I'm not sure so maybe he said within a year, right? That's what he's saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So it could be correct. It's not a bad guess. Because one could even argue that we're right in the middle of it with all this pumping of, with all this stuff. The amount of money when we were told, I forget the numbers now, right? But we printed a ridiculous.
Great job.
It's like the percentage of, I don't know, we were like all the money that's ever existed, like 60% of it was printed in 2020. Some kind of crazy number like that. I don't know what the exact numbers are.
I thought last time I checked it was 33%, but it could have gone up. Obviously,
no. If it's because I don't know the numbers, but
okay.
that whole thing is ridiculous, and you could be saying that we are in that crash right now already. So it's like saying, some particular event that's going to market by some stocks, blah blah blah. I think he's right. I think he's right. So but I think, again, though, at the end of the day, to be honest, I think it's just a marketing thing. He's out there saying something that is true. He has a brand for it, just like Peter Schiff has a brand for it. There's nothing wrong with what they're saying, but when you put a timeline to it and all stuff, like you got some secret knowledge, that's John McAfee type stuff,
May he rest. May he
rest in peace. He was a hero of some of us rugged libertarian crazy types, but I guess yeah.
So Ike, going back to something you said previously, for the long term you are bullish, it sounds like.
Yes, for the long term, I'm bullish. Yeah, it's like saying I'm bullish the internet, but I'm not. I don't know what particular. I'm not. I'm making. I'm more. I'm less sure. So more speculative about
Of
both
course.
short-term technical analysis and also the particulars of what will last over time and what the shape, what the landscape will look like over time.
Well, I think next time I'm seeing you in Cali, um, me and you, we're gonna have a great conversation about cryptocurrency. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, that's
And you'll be like, this solo guy. Who?
yeah, cool. We'll have an Irish coffee and discuss it.
Oh yes, off of gold cups.
Whatever you prefer, sir.
You know. Okay, well, I really appreciate you coming back to Solo TV 84. You know that you have time for a peasant such as myself. So I really do appreciate that because you're a popular guy now. See, I remember Ike in 2020, man. You were making the tsunami. Like you were always in the chat. Maybe I need to beef with find a new light skinned girl to beef with.
In order to get the super chats again.
Yeah,
you gotta. You're not giving me what I want, Solo. I want light skin beef. That's
light skin beef. Okay, I got you. I'm working on it. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny because when you came last year, you were just dropping like hundreds, right? And then one time you like, yeah, nigga. I'm like, yo, hold on. This guy is white. Like, what? Yo, Ike, you gotta chill.
I didn't use that word. Don't mix it up now with the Andrew Schultz show.
Okay. Shout out to Dollar Will. He says, I'm proud to hear my brothers opening up to technical analysis. Yeah, you know, and that is something that is probably the weakest. That's not a secret area of my crypto game. You know, because I listen, man. I love the stock to flow chart, man. That's my. I love it, but that is something that. Yes, sir. The Plan B stock to flow. Have you heard of it?
Oh no, I know, I do know it. I do. So it's very much argued over, and some people think it's utter trash. Some people think it's. You get the point. Some people think maybe.
Well, it hasn't been wrong thus far. You know, so
that may be dangerous.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, technical analysis. Like I said, I have guys in my camp that, thank God, they're way more knowledgeable when it comes to that, right? Once again, they're in the Trendsetter Telegram group, which Ike is part of, but he's not very active. But I get it. You know, and so for me, here's the thing. At the end of the day, even if it's a bear market, which I don't think it is, but if it is, my motto is not financial advice, but buy at the dip. Right, Ike? How many times have you heard me say that on this channel? But here's the thing, and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut before I keep talking more because.
No, I think you're right. Look, I did a dollar cost averaging for. So there's this, obviously, right, when it comes to money, not financial advice, but you need to have these different drawers, right? Different buckets of money. There's a kind of a sacred account where you don't touch it. It just goes away. It goes into your whatever. It's right there, right next to your life insurance policy, which you should also have. Everybody listen to this. Okay, go get a life insurance policy. It's a good thing, generally speaking, so that at least when you leave, you can leave out of here with some dignity and not burden anybody with your bullshit. Okay. So it's right there with your life insurance policy, and then you have some other buckets, and then this comes to like your living money, and then maybe you have some play money. But there's this bucket that I had, which was just kind of going into a particular savings account, some savings account, just for like extra money that you forget about, and it might be pleasantly surprised by later. But what I did is I started dollar cost
problems.
I started dollar cost averaging it into by getting some crypto coins. I mean, relatively stable one, nothing crazy, you know, Cardano and Cosmos and stuff like that. And I'm doing better than if I just kept putting it into the credit union. You know what I mean? So it still is working overall on many different levels. So I trust crypto with a couple of layers of those money drawers. It's not where my retirement money is in, no, but could I make a trade, you know, of that magnitude if I believe in it at some point. I will. I'll take risks because what happened in 2020 was great. I know right now I'm just talking all price and all profits, and I sound like a profiteer, and I'm not going to be good with the diamond hand, laser eyed crypto gang. But really, I'm here to make money.
Right. Yeah, I think we all are, right? I mean, yeah, look, I know some people are, "Yeah, I'm in it for the tech." Look, we in it for the tech too. We know Web 3.0 is coming, and we know blockchain is going to be an integral part of that, right? And
Yep.
I think that one thing I love to see is now even though it's still highly speculative, there are a lot of coins now that are showing usage cases, right? And so that's a great thing to see. Shout out to Lionel in the chat. I see you, bro. What's going on? But here's the thing, like I always say, guys, do your own research. That's it. Do your own research. But I think when I see you next time in California, you and I, we're gonna have a very spirited conversation about crypto. And with that being said, guys, make sure to follow Ike on his channel. Great guy, phenomenal gentleman, very intelligent. Also has been a very long time supporter of mine, and I appreciate Ike for everything he does, and I appreciate him being at the space because he could be at some villa with his wife enjoying life, but he's here with you. Yes, you. So I appreciate Ike. Ike, where else can they find you besides your channel? Or anything, final words, sir? It's on you.
Well, final words. First of all, thank you very much. It was a pleasant conversation. I think we covered all kinds of interesting topics, and the time flew by for me in a pleasant way, if you will. So
yeah, I
you
think
can find me again.
This interview, I did better than our first one because I didn't cut you off every 5 minutes, so that was a good thing.
So Iko Giamian on Instagram, on Facebook, right? Also on YouTube, and also Prometheus Engineering. You can find me there as well. That's a channel where I give Prometheus, engineering advice. And the name of my company is also Prometheus Engineering. So, maybe you want to go to PrometheusEngineering.org, check that out, share it, for somebody who may need an engineering company. If you happen to be if you happen to be building a refinery or installing some heavy machinery in some nuclear power plant or something like that, hit me up. But you can find me again, Ike Ogiamien, IKEOGIAMIEN, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Prometheus Engineering as well. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to be here, Solo TV 84. Keep drinking them Perriers and maintaining that smooth skin.
Always. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Happy 4th of July. I hope everybody has a blessed holiday. Please stay safe. I will not be outside there I'll be inside. I'm not going to be out there while, there's going to be a blackout. So anyway, with that being said, God bless you people.